It's not like getting your report card, but it is troubling. But the one that I think is particularly troubling is value of services for taxes paid. Less than half of our population who responded to the survey thought they were getting good service for the taxes they pay. That's not acceptable. That's not something we can continue to live with, and it's an issue we've got to address. However, if you look at taxes paid, we are still the bargain in East Tennessee. Look at some of the folks that I think of when I think of doing a good job. Maryville, Alcoa, some of the Tri-Cities, they're all significantly higher than us in terms of tax burden. We show city and county in this chart because some cities have schools and some don't. So the combined tax rate is what's the impact on the citizen is really important. But we are still overwhelmingly the cheap property tax city of the area. Part of the problem may in fact be you get what you pay for. You go to the dollar store to buy your kid a toy and it breaks 10 minutes after you get home, you didn't get value. But you didn't get value because you bought a cheap piece of junk. Sometimes you have to make the investment in order to get the quality of service or quality product you want in order to get value. So perhaps we are selling ourselves short by trying to be too cheap. We are, by comparison to our neighbors, much cheaper, and we need to bear that in mind. Quality of service. Our citizens said, 58% said good or excellent. Again, not great, but better than what we've been seeing on some of the other things. I think we've got a very tough population in terms of grading. When you compare us to federal, state, and county, they like us better. I think we've got a population that doesn't like government and is fairly dissatisfied in general. But again, we need to help educate our citizens about what it is we're doing. We're going to have to blow our own horn a little bit and let people know what's going on. And we've got to address areas where our service is not of good quality. We've got to deliver a product that people are happy to pay for. That's part of the business. When you get away from just government service and start to look at where people live, we rate a little higher. In terms of a place to live, overall quality of life, those sorts of things, people feel a little better about our community. It's troubling, I guess it's not surprising, that Morristown as a place to work is as low as it is, but I think that's largely a reflection of the economy at the time the survey was taken, and hopefully that will improve over time. But this is the kind of thing we've got to evaluate and say, are we impacting these things with our programs? Are we making our community a better place to live? So, in terms of general government, and that largely means council, administration, and those basic services we provide, we've got to reinforce trust. People have to know what we're doing. They have to appreciate what it is, and we have to let them understand that we're working in their best interest. We got to show value. They got to understand that what they're getting is important and where it comes from. We've got to highlight quality. We've got to do a good job. And we just need some responsible leadership. We just need to hit the leadership button. You take care of that, hit that leadership button, it'll take care of all the problems. But that's where we need to focus in terms of some of the general perception about how we're doing and what we need to do. All right, let's talk about our people. I said earlier that we had cut our folks back in hopes of what makes things happen. You can look at the total employment and you can see we peaked out in 2008. And between then and last year, we had about a 10% reduction in the folks doing the work we've got to do. Very little reduction in what we do. We just cut back the people that we have to do it. So people are doing a lot more with less folks. People are carrying a bigger burden. They are truly working harder on behalf of the citizens. You've got to tell that story. You will also note in FY13, there was a slight uptick. From last year's budget to the proposed budgets in front of you, there are 3 new positions. One you already know about, We talked about it a few weeks back, reorganizing finance. We got rid of the finance director, and we've got 2 accountants basically with the same money. So that's one of the 3. We'll talk about the other 2 here in a minute. But overall, the total number of employees has been declining, and people have been getting the job done with fewer resources. The survey, when we talk to people about how the employees are doing, gave a pretty favorable response. 80 is what, a C+, would that be? That's clearly not something to crow about, but much better than a lot of the things we look at. In terms of knowledge, responsiveness, courtesy, and overall impression, employees fare pretty well in the survey. Our folks do a good job carrying out your message and delivering the services to the people out there. When you look at benchmarking studies, these are the cities that are involved in the study statewide. Total personnel costs per FTE full-time equivalent. So if you've got 2 half-time people, you put them together, you get one position. So that's how they determine cost of your people for all the employees you have. Because we're on the bottom end. We're in terms of our total personnel costs on the low end of the scale, down with Athens and Cleveland, nowhere near the folks up at the top end. Also from the benchmark study, we have this. Our benefit load is the highest of the entire survey. Now, if you have a ratio of salary to benefits and salaries are low, that makes sense. But perhaps we've put a little more emphasis on the benefit side and pay side. We need to consider that. But we do rank the highest. Anytime in the survey or the benchmark study, we came out the highest, we put a red flag by it for me. We're going to have to go back and look at it. This one, however, is troubling. In terms of employee turnover, we are more than double the next highest community in the study. Now, we can explain part of that. That is cutbacks, that's reorganizations, that's changing the way we do business in some way. But that does not explain double. We clearly have some problems hanging on to good people. This is something you've got to be aware of. 17% turnover is not a healthy place to live, and it's not a place that you can sustain for very long. So, in order to address these concerns, this budget proposes the following. For all employees across the board, 2.5% cost of living adjustment, a 2.5% raise for employees, thanking them for what they've done, getting us through the rough patch, giving them a little bit of relief for their families and being able to buy groceries and make car payments, trying to help keep them with us, keep our good employees in the city instead of using us as a training ground and going somewhere else to work. The budget before you has a 2.5% raise across the board for employees. But in order to address some of the other things like turnover and ratio of salaries to benefits, I'm proposing to do a study, a case study, or what I call a classification compensation class comp study. Someone from outside come in, look and see if we're paying market rates. Are we losing police officers to surrounding jurisdictions because they all pay more than we do? We've got to do something about that. Are firefighters coming here and getting their certification, getting a little experience, and going somewhere else because they can make more money? Also, we've got to take a hard look at, we've downsized, we've said, Johnny Paul, you take what you used to do and you do this too, and we've not compensated you for it. This study will look at our pay, our benefits, look at fairness, and look at what we're paying people for the job they do, and do a market analysis. The idea here is not to address pay in fiscal year 13, but give you some information where you may be able to address those issues next year's budget in 14. So this is a study we're recommending that we do so we can learn some about our pay and benefit package. When you look at the survey and you look at the overall assessment of our business community by the citizens, it's not very good. Surprisingly so, in my mind. if we don't rate highly in terms of health service, and you drive around town and you look at the number of professional offices we have for medical, it's amazing to me. But there are things here we clearly need to better advertise. We need to find out what's going on. But on the bottom, employment opportunities. Clearly, our people are worried about having jobs. We've got to continue to work on economic development and growing the community. But not far ahead of it is shopping opportunities. We need our retail development, both because it brings money into the operation through sales tax, but our people don't see that as being a good opportunity here, and we've got leakage going outside the community. So this is a snapshot of things we need to be aware of and kind of help support our local business economy. So in the area of economic development, this budget proposes a few things. I am working now with our staff to reshape the way we do development review. So a developer comes in, the process we go through, the studies we have, to be both developer friendly and make sure we get quality development for the community. We'll be in the late summer, early fall, talking about that, talking about how we're going to accomplish that, and how we're going to make that process a little more streamlined, a little more predictable, so when you come in the door, you'll know what to expect as a developer. Also, this is one of the other two positions that I talked about earlier in the presentation. I'm adding one administrative assistant that will help support that development process, that new framework, and will provide administrative support to the permitting plan review process, keep things flowing more easily, and be a readily accessible point of contact. This is going to be a vital and integral part of making that work better. So we said 3 positions, that's number 2.
Tony, what is that was job?
There'll be permitting, plan processing, and support of the engineering planning staff administrative assistant. It'll be upstairs of the J. Moore's wing where the inspectors are. That office has been dark and empty. That's where that person will be. She'll take care of the permitting plan review process. I say she, that administrative assistant. That's sexist of me. Okay. Community appearance. You are going to hear a lot from me in the coming year about community appearance. When you look at the survey results and you ask them about rundown buildings, weed lots, junk vehicles, an overwhelming majority, about 2/3 of our population say it's a major or moderate problem. Only 6% of our population says it's not a problem. We've got to do something to dress up our front door in terms of the way people see us and the way we see ourselves. So community appearance is going to continue to be a focus for the coming year. From the survey, you can see code enforcement was down in the 25% range in terms of what people felt that we were doing well. So overall appearance and code enforcement is something we're going to work on. When I go to a meeting, invariably, someone pulls me aside and talks to me about the way things look. When we had the retreat and the council talked about things we wanted to do, the appearance of the community came up again. And it's reinforced by the survey. When that many things intersect and they all say the same thing, you've got a problem, you've got a common problem, and we're going to need to address it. And it's also from the survey, one of the key drivers, they said, if you make improvements there, that's where you can make some of the most improvement in terms of the overall perception of the city. So, staff is going to work with staff members and the community groups to find ways to bring to you ways we can improve our community appearance and do a better job feeling good about the way we present ourselves to others. We've already talked about changing code enforcement. That's in place and is beginning to get off the ground. That will truly show benefits next year. Putting that as a full-time police officer, I think, is clearly bringing strength to the position. Position number 3, the third and final new position. We are proposing to hire another police officer whose sole duty is to go to the jail, pick up a crew of trustees, and go out and attack the community appearance problem. litter, groundskeeping, whatever it is we need to take care of, this person, by hiring one person, will get an entire crew. We're going to go out and address some of these concerns. And Bill will be happy because we're getting a few people out of the jail a little quicker. So that is an investment in community appearance with a large bang for the buck in terms of the cost. We'll have a lot of labor for not much cost. Weed lots, we continue to put $30,000 in the budget to take care of lots that need to be addressed. Mowing, cleaning, you know, we've been through the drill. We do have a program to recover those costs. And as we put that against the property taxes, we will eventually get it. We're putting the money in now, the seed money to get that going. Also, we're continuing with the demolition of derelict buildings, at the rate of $35,000. To date, we've taken down 13 buildings last year. We've got a long way to go. Bob, you're pointing out they're everywhere if you start to look for them. So again, we will eventually recover those costs, but we're going to find a way to get some of those run down, dilapidated buildings taken down and improve our community and our neighborhoods. And finally, we talked at the council meeting on Tuesday about the CDBG program, continuing the facade program for downtown. We make a contribution if someone's willing to step up and do a dress up of their facade on a downtown building. We match them 50-50 up to a certain limit. And you can see it's having an impact on the way downtown looks. So that's a beginning on what we're talking about doing to help improve our community appearance in the coming year. In your budget book, toward the back, there's a summary of equipment all the way through. I've got it here in the presentation so that when I hand it out later, you'll be able to find it. I'm not going to read all of them to you, but I do want to point out some highlights. In general government, in terms of equipment, computers. We have taken computers for the entire organization and put them in this department. That allows us to standardize, it allows us to evaluate the condition of the equipment and kind of pick and choose and get the worst ones replaced as we go forward and make sure they're appropriate for the needs that the user has. So we have in this budget $80,000 to begin to replace outdated computer equipment. 20 computers that are general kind of desktop worker computers on a 5-year replacement cycle at $40,000, and 16 of the mobile data terminals in the police department, again, replacing on a 5-year cycle. We plan on replacing the worst ones as you go through and try and keep up so that we have functional equipment for our people out there in the field. All right, police. Overall, our community felt pretty good about the general police services, and traffic enforcement was okay. But the survey indicated that traffic was a key driver. Moving vehicles through the community is something that our citizens feel is a prime function of the city and something we need to pay attention to. Crime prevention is one we'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. This is troubling in terms of the perception of safety of our citizens. Barely 50%, or a little more than 50%, feel safe from violent crime in our community. Less than 50% feel safe from property crime. People generally feel safe in their neighborhood in the day, less so at night. Feel safe downtown during the day, but really are uncomfortable downtown after dark. Those are things that we've got to address. If people don't feel safe, they're not going to be comfortable being in the kinds of things we need them to do in terms of their neighborhood, downtown, and around the community. In terms of traffic accidents, this is a key driver from the survey, and you can see injuries as a percentage of the overall. We're right there with our benchmark brothers across the state. Major crimes, when you just look at this slide, you say, dang, we are higher than average. What's going on? Drill a little deeper into the benchmark report, and you see that when we compare ourselves to the more industrial cities as opposed to the suburban cities, we're kind of in the middle of the pack. We're certainly better off than Kingsport and Athens. We're comparable to Cleveland and Chattanooga. We're not, and this is going to be competing with Germantown, Franklin, and those folks. So major crimes in terms of here is a problem. We don't want to have a crime here, but it doesn't stand out when you simply look at the overall average as bad as the first thing. So if you look at, and you talk to the chief and you look at the data, people's perception of safety is not supported by actual crime statistics. People don't feel safe, or they don't feel as safe as they are. We've got to work on educating the population, being more visible, making people more comfortable. It's not really a big problem of fighting crime as much as it is making people feel safe about what we're doing. So we're going to try and be visible and try and let people know how we're doing things and how they can be safe in the community. When you look at some of the things from the benchmark report in terms of workload, the benchmark report does a lot of things on how much work do you get out of your folks, how efficient are they. We are running about in the middle in terms of calls per officer. But if you talk to the chief, because of the demographics of our population, the number of people that we have where English is a second language, each call takes more time than a lot of these folks in the other communities have to deal with. So we're getting a good production from our folks in terms of call response. Total cost, we're a little bit above in terms of cost per person in the city for overall police protection. You notice just a slightly bit above average on cost per capita. But if you look at the chart on positions per capita, we're way higher than most. That is largely because we've been pretty effective in getting grant funds and finding other ways for people to pay for those positions. So cost is comparable, but we got more people, more bang for the buck out of it. In terms of police equipment, a couple of things I wanted to point out here. One is we're beginning to replace tasers. We've had tasers out there deployed for a while. You can't put them out after a certain period of time. They're no longer under warranty. We'll get one of our officers or someone in the public hurt if we're not careful. So beginning to replace tasers is in $20,000. But motor equipment, I asked each department to tell me one thing needed in terms of equipment. The police department came back and said, in reality, looking at our fleet, looking at mileage, looking at maintenance reports, we need 14 patrol vehicles. I said, well, I won't say the words I said, but obviously we can't swallow 14 vehicles. The budget has money to replace 7 police vehicles, but there's more to the story than that.